I'm Dan Ahern. I am here as part of the product management team, but with me are several other members of our collective team across the different open civil products that we support. This session is all about hearing and listening to you, what input you've got, how you can help us shape the future of the software by suggesting ideas for new capabilities within the software. So I'm going to cover a few things here for about 10, maybe 15 minutes on how you can provide us feedback. And then we're going to open this session up a little bit and take some Q&A, and we'll do our best to try to answer as many questions as you have about the direction that the software is going. We're not trying to look at technical support questions today, but the direction of the software, where it's going, what you would like to see into it, help guide that. So before we get into the Q&A portion of it, let's take a look at where we're at with giving you some suggestions. So do you have any ideas on how to improve the software? I know you do. You have in the past. You've submitted enhancement requests to us and logged those. Well, what we're here today to do is to introduce that we do have a new system for you to be able to bring those in. We'd like to welcome you to the Open Civil Products Ideas portal. This is a single website where we'll support ideas and enhancement requests for all of the Open Civil products: bridge, site, road, tunnel, sign CAD, rail, overhead line, all across the portfolio, one place for you to go to share those. You may be familiar with ideas portals for some other products at Bentley or even other products at other companies. If you're not, we'll cover in detail, or a little bit of detail here today, what that ideas portal is and how you can interact with it and how you can benefit from this interaction through the ideas portal. One of the most important things behind the ideas portal is that it puts you in more control of your ideas that you want to submit, and it makes those ideas visible not only to yourself, but to everybody else in the world. You no longer need to submit service requests when you have an enhancement request or an idea you want to put in. You can go directly to this portal and submit those requests. You can see not only your own requests, but you can see all other ideas that have been submitted by users throughout the globe. You can comment on those. You can add additional details to those. You can vote on those. So we can get a collective input from all of the users out there of what you find most useful for future development consideration. You'll also get notifications out of this system. And we'll talk more about when those notifications happen. But you do get notifications coming out of that system so that you'll know when things happen related to the ideas either you've submitted or that maybe you're following or participating in. So where do you get to this? Here's the URL of it, and I'll bring this back up a little bit later, and maybe somebody can share it through the chat as well in there if one of my colleagues could. It's bentleyOpenCivil.ideas.aha.io. You're one place to get, or for all civil product ideas that you're going to submit. Now, let's start by talking about how do I add a new idea. That's pretty simple. Log into the portal, and logging into the portal, that is tied in with your Bentley connected user account. So you're going to log in using the same email and password that you've used to log into your software. So if you're running Open Bridge or Open Roads Designer today, it's that same login that you're going to use there. So you log into the portal, you click the Add a New Idea button, and it's going to pop up a dialog there where you could submit your ideas. As you start submitting an idea and you're typing, like in this case I typed item type expression, the system will provide for you other ideas that already exist that might be the same as what you're submitting. So you can take a quick look at that. If the idea is the same as what you're submitting, instead of submitting a new one, you can go open that one, add your vote, your comments to it. If you don't see anything that's the same, go ahead and create that new idea. Oops. You can enter a detailed description for that idea. You can also attach files if appropriate, if you need some examples in there, some screenshots, for example. Select the civil product you're associating that with, whatever you're running in your environment. Help us categorize it a little bit so people can find those ideas a little bit easier, and click submit. It's that simple. Now, I will give you a little bit of a warning up front because this might cause some of you a little confusion if you try to go submit an idea. Ideas are, when they're submitted, are not immediately available publicly for everybody to see. So when you first submit it, it becomes available and our product management team does a review of it. We're not trying to hide any ideas from the public out there. The reason we're doing a review of it is we know from experience, we get enhancement requests today that sometimes people submit an enhancement request not realizing that that functionality already exists in the software. They may have just not found it yet. So that's the first thing we're looking for is, does this already exist? And if so, we'll get back with you. Whoever submitted that idea, respond back to you and say, hey, this already exists. Here's how you can accomplish that today. Now, if that's an idea that we think a lot of people may not be familiar already exists in the software, we may go ahead and make that public and share it with everybody. Others, we may respond back to just the person who created it if we think it's a fairly common knowledge that most people already know that exists. The second thing we're looking for is there maybe a duplicate already in the system that you perhaps didn't have time to find? Understandable. We'll do a little bit of that work too, and we may tie together or merge together a couple of ideas if a duplicate exists. And then lastly, the what we're looking for before we make them public is a little bit of cleanup of the wording. You know, not everybody that uses the software has English as a first language. So sometimes cleaning up some wording might be important before we share it out publicly so it's as easily understandable by everybody as possible. Once we do that quick review on it, within hopefully a couple of days in most cases, we'll get those done, depending on how many are coming in. Then those ideas will become public and available for everybody to view. Now, once an idea is out there, in the ideas page, there's really 5 status that it could be under. The first one is already exists. We talked about that a little bit. That might be an idea that comes in, but that functionality really already exists in the software. We'll mark it as an already exists. We may post it publicly, and you would see that. Now, the most common one you'll probably see out there is a future consideration. What that is an idea somebody has submitted to us. It's not currently on our development roadmap, but it's certainly something we're interested in. We want to get feedback from the rest of the user community. Is this something that would be useful to you? What are different use cases for it? So we're looking for those comments, those votes on those ideas. The more comments and particularly more votes we get an idea, the more likely it is that it's going to be considered to be put into software in the future. The third status is something called planning to implement. So what that's indicating is that it is on our roadmap. Now, our roadmaps are generally reaching out 12 to 24 months into the future. So planning to implement doesn't mean it's going to be in the next release of software, but it does mean that it's something that we put on our roadmap and our development teams are looking at and starting to work on. And it's likely to be implemented in some release coming fairly soon. Once that idea is implemented into a release of software, the status will change to shipped, and you will know then that that piece of functionality is now available. The fifth status that we do include here is something called will not implement. We don't expect to use this a lot, but there are going to be certain situations where an idea comes in that is just not aligned with our strategic initiatives. And it's not something that we're likely to implement any time in the foreseeable future. And in those situations, we want to be fair with you and honest with you and let you know that that's just not something that's likely to happen in the near term. It's not anywhere in our strategic plans. So we may respond to a few ideas with a will not implement. That doesn't mean it couldn't be come back and revisited in the future. But at that point in time when it was submitted and for the future time that we can foresee, it's unlikely that we would move in that direction. Your feedback is essential to this. That's why we're implementing these systems, to make it easier for you to participate in and give feedback and help guide our product development process. There's three major things that you can do besides submitting ideas, and that is voting on existing ideas to express your support of that idea. Comment on those ideas to maybe refine the concept of the idea or show your use cases or different use cases than others have already described so that we can more fully understand what the user community wants to get out of that idea. And lastly, you can subscribe to an idea. That's kind of like following it. And that's important when we talk about notifications. So speaking of notifications, what happens? Well, notification emails get sent when new ideas are created. So you do get a reminder or a confirmation, essentially, that your idea has been received. You also get an email notification if a comment is added to ideas or an administrator response is added. So Bentley's added a higher level of a comment to it, or the status changes. So maybe it changed from a future consideration to planning to implement, or planning to implement to shipped. You would get notification on it. Who gets notifications? Well, number one, the person who created the idea. They're kind of the owner of that idea, and they're always going to get that notification. Number two, though, is anybody who subscribes to an idea. So if you subscribe to it, you will also receive those notifications. Put the address back up here, bentleyOpenCivil.ideas.aha.io. That's where you can go to reach the web page. I'm going to go over there and kind of go into the page live. So this is that page here that we're looking at. See if we've got any questions have come in so far. All right, no questions have come in so far, but we'll, or not many, so we'll keep looking at that and monitoring it. So let me go ahead and give you a tour of the ideas page if you're not familiar with this type of an environment. It is organized by category. So along the left side, we have implemented it with some set categories here. If you want to look at ideas that are within those categories, you can pick on them. So if I picked on annotation, you can see there's currently 6 ideas that are out there in the environment already that you can come out and look at in more detail. So if I click on an idea, I can get it in more detail. I can see the full description. This one came in for OpenRoads Designer. There's no comments on it yet, but you could add additional comments to it here if you wanted to. You could vote on this idea. I'll go ahead and cast my vote for this one. If you voted for something and you didn't intend to, you can click it again and you can unvote for it. You can cast a single vote for each idea, but you can vote on as many ideas as you want. So you don't have a limit of the number of votes you can cast, but you can only cast one vote per idea. You can also click the subscribe button up here near the upper right corner, and that would subscribe me to that idea so I would get notifications from that as we move forward. You can click the Bentley Advancing Infrastructure icon up in the corner. Will always take you back to the home page. You get a summary at the top here of how many ideas you've submitted, how many votes you've had, and how many you've subscribed to. So if I go ahead and let's just pick something else, let me vote for that and subscribe to that. Subscription in, there we go. So now you can see I voted for one item, subscribed to one item. I can always go back and see those things that I voted for or subscribed to quickly by going to those filter choices. You can also filter by the status of things. So if you're wanting to know what is being planned to implement, what's in that status right now, you can come to here. There's currently 8 items in our system that are being planned to implement. There's an additional 21 that are out there right now that are future considerations, so we're looking for input on those. All right, any questions that anybody has? Please submit them in the Q&A box. It could be questions about the Ideas portal, or if you have any questions about any of the products. We'll do our best to answer those. We do have people here from all of our product lines. It's not just me here today, so please feel free to enter those and we'll try to get those answered. One question that may come up is, have you submitted enhancement requests in the past and have those automatically been brought forward to here? But the answer is no, we didn't bring them all forward. There are many thousands of enhancement requests that exist out there in the systems today. Merging those all together and cleaning those up, I don't know that it was going to bring you a lot of clarity to vote on things. So what we've started doing, and you'll see in here already, there's 50 or 60 existing ideas in here. These did all come from existing enhancement requests. So you may find some of those out there. We may continue to populate some more from a Bentley side. We'll also expect that as users start populating ideas in here too, that you will match those up with your own interests and add those in. But we did not bring forward every enhancement request that is outstanding out there. So there's a question about there is already existing really the same thing as shipped? No, they're not, and it has to do with the timing of things. So if I submitted an idea today that was functional in a release of software, let's say anything up through 2021 release 2, we may respond to you and say that functionality already exists. Today, you can go find that in currently released software. We may have something new though that was an idea that you submitted. Let's take one of these, for example, that was in a planning to implement state. One of these may be your idea, and that functionality may get released in 2022 R1 or 2022 R2 later this year. Once that releases at that point in time, then that would change to a shipped status. So they do both mean that, yeah, that functionality is available in the software, but it kind of comes down to, was it available when the idea was submitted, or did it become available after the idea was submitted? So shipped is kind of indicating that we've taken your idea, we've implemented it in the software, and then produced it. There's a question, do enhancement requests expire? A minute ago I was talking about, no, we did not bring forward all of your enhancement requests into this ideas portal. We also did not delete anything. So we still have every one of your enhancement requests that have been submitted. We do go through those every time we're planning a release, and we look at what's there. We will rely more and more on the ideas portal for that guidance as we move forward, but we don't just turn off and eliminate all that other historical knowledge either. It does all contribute to planning what enhancements or new capabilities we're going to implement in each release. So that answer to that is no, they don't ever expire, but we will transition over to looking at the ideas portal more and more as time goes on. A question on submitting defects. So yeah, just to be clear there, defects, bugs in the software, problems that you're having with the software, questions, how to do something in the software, anywhere like that you're needing help for things, you do still submit through a service ticket. The technical support group will be helpful there, take care of you, and get you the answers that you need there to the best of their ability. When you have ideas for something new that you want in the software, something that doesn't exist today, it's not broken, it just doesn't exist, or it doesn't function the way you would like it to function. That's where you would submit that as an idea. Something new, something different that you would like to see the software do than what it does today.